All right, everybody, welcome to the show. Your Healthy Self is designed to bring you the best and latest and greatest in human health and performance and optimization. And so I've got a very special guest today, and her name is Victoria Vivas Kwong. And she is someone I met a couple of weeks ago at a Michael Burnoff conference. And many of you know of Michael Burnoff. He's been on the show a few times, Victoria, and he's big in our Go Wellness community. And so Victoria, just to give you a little background, she has a great book. It's called In a Matter of Seconds. I've got it right here. Thank you for that gift. And amazing read. And she's got a podcast, and her podcast is very interesting. It's called the Divine Sexuality Podcast. Victoria is a shaman, and she'll be talking about that a little bit today. But we'll also be she'll be talking about taking sexuality out of the gutter of guilt, shame, and objectification, and elevating it to a new realm of divine bliss, profound intimacy, and self-actualization. And so I'm really excited to have you on the show. So Victoria, welcome to your healthy self.
Thank you so much, Megan, for having me. And hi, good morning, everybody.
Yeah, awesome. Well, so let's jump in real quick. I mean, we met and Michael Burnoff conference. We're there, 14 hours a day for like 3 days, and then there's music that plays, and then there's dancing, and so I keep seeing this lady like get the whole crowd when we're all just like ready to go home and go to bed. You're just kind of like, let's start jamming. And so I asked you, I was like, are you a professional dancer? Because you got some moves that I don't have from my Idaho heritage. And so maybe you could talk about your background is, in TV and performance.
Absolutely. I will be happy to share. It has been quite the journey. So I grew up really loving to see in television the dancers and all the show business, everything, and dreaming of it because I was living in a ghetto-like neighborhood. Like this was like the world of the stars far away from us.
Mhm.
But then I was really a person of intention, and life it just happened to be almost like manifesting most of my dreams. So suddenly I saw myself in primetime television, being one of the first Black faces in Spanish television, because in Spain it's not like here in the US where I live now, which is a melting pot. So suddenly I
Yeah.
was working with really famous people like Robbie Williams, Diana Ross, and all the biggest stars, and just dancing and even hosting a little bit. So, so yeah, it was super fun going on tour around the world. It was just exciting, really fun.
That's crazy. Yeah. And one of your biggest moments, I mean, you talk about it in your book. You're on stage, 50,000 people screaming, and you've got what who everyone thought was Michael Jackson on stage. What was that like for you?
Oh my goodness, that's one of the key moments that I had such an experience. It was like the adrenaline and the energy of the crowd. I just felt it like nourish me and allowing me to give them even more. It was incredible because, in general, I worked in television and sometimes it was live. So you would feel the energy of millions of people watching you, but there is nothing like being in the same space with 50,000 people in the crowd, ravishing like, "Ah!" So it was incredible. I felt like really like almost out of body experience and just encompassing the whole space. It was amazing.
Wow. Yeah, an interesting pass. And you write about this in your book, how there was some racial profiling going on in Spain, and you really had, you lived just outside of Madrid, and there's just some challenging times that you grew up with, and how did that forge you for who you are today?
Oh my, yeah, that certainly had a big impact. So, just to share a little bit, I grew up in an ultra conservative regime. It was a dictatorship. So, that was my environment. And I was the only Black person I would see until I was about to turn 14. So,
Really?
yes, my household was white because my mom is part German. So I was
Okay.
living with my mom, my grandmother, and my aunt. And they were all like blue eyes and things like that. And then was me. And I was like, I would dream about myself like I was white too, but I wasn't. So, yeah, so everybody around in my neighborhood, in the city, everybody was white. So there was a lot of not understanding, not being able to relate to people that looks different that they did. And only after I turned 14, finally finding my first friends that were Black like me. And
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not very dark or anything. I'm mixed. I'm part German. So but just having that affinity, like, oh my goodness, there is people like me in the world, yes. So interestingly enough, that was very traumatic in the sense that people would insult me in the streets and treat me badly sometimes,
Wow.
but at the same time it allowed me to now be special in some way, being one of the first Black faces in television. So there weren't many of us. Of course, with the years there were more and more and more, but still there was not as many as like here in the US.
Got it. And so you really had to find some inner courage, inner strength. I mean, and also you I'm sure you had to just realize that it was ignorance of those people who were, being insulting or not treating you fairly. So that must have given you some strength. I mean, right now you're doing a lot of amazing work. So maybe you could tell us who you help and kind of the work you're doing currently in your life.
Yeah, of course. So, when you share that, I feel that it gave me a lot of compassion. So, since I was small, I wanted to help people. And when I saw somebody in distress or being discriminated, I always was like there, like trying to help everybody. So,
Right.
I feel that that developed a little bit within me thanks to those challenges. And then I had a near-death experience. So that truly got me into, am I on the right path, or should I be doing something? I have a second chance, so maybe I have to help people in a deeper way. So that's when I started with energy healing and healing arts in general. And at that
Mm.
point, I decided actually to start moving toward that. I also started martial arts, but ultimately, I opened my school of healing here in Los Angeles. So I mentor individuals who are heart centered, want to transform their lives, but also become a positive force in the world and become practitioners of shamanism, Reiki, any other modality in healing. So that's a lot of it, but as you know, I have my divine sexuality aspect too. So that's a little bit different, but it's still related.
Okay, got it. And so maybe, I mean, if you look at all the modalities of healing that you work with people on, why divine sexuality? Yeah, maybe we could dive into that and give us an explanation, because I don't even know what that means, to be honest with you. I have an idea, but I'd love to get your definition.
Absolutely. So after over a decade in healing, because I started in 2000, I still had trouble. Like there was still things that were unresolved. So with my partner, not being able to fully get intimate to an extent that I was feeling safe and comfortable in my body and in the relationship. So for more that I did all the different modalities of healing, what was happening, like something is missing here. So that's when I started exploring and I discovered sacred sexuality, divine sexuality, and all these practices that elevate sex, so that it's not just what, like sometimes we learn sexuality in porn or in movies
Right.
and that's not the place. So because of that, being able to understand sexuality and heal myself, heal my relationship with my gender, my body, the opposite gender, all of that was something that I was really lacking. So I finally delved into it, transformed my life. I was really deep into it for 3 years, like transforming myself. And then I realized I have all these students that I'm mentoring. And yes, they are very proficient at many of the practices. But what about sexuality? When we
Mm.
are missing that piece, it's like we cannot stand in our own power, in our own self-love, because there is almost like um, a conflict with our bodies. And especially when I became a teacher in energy healing, I emulated some of my mentors that were older women. So suddenly my husband sees me from being this hot martial artists fighting guys in movies to be like old prude and like an old lady conservative. And it's like, oh, that doesn't really work that well. So there is a little bit of stigma when it comes to spirituality and sexuality. It's almost
Yeah.
like there is no connection. So that's something that I wanted to heal so badly, because my life is almost like I lost my power in some ways. So because of that, I decided to start teaching my students and say, hey, okay, so now you're a healing practitioner, but there is this other aspect. Would you like to explore it? And the results were incredible. So that's why I'm focusing on that, and also now offering it to any woman truly that wants to transform their life. I focus on women mostly.
Got it. And so what would you say some of the symptoms are? Like what did you kind of felt like you were oppressed a little bit, you had a lack of connection with the opposite sex. What are some of the other symptoms that might show up? Because it's subtle, right? It's not like we wake up every day and we said, I'm going to be a divine sexual creature or whatever. I mean, but what are some of the symptoms that your students have noticed? And then what's the transformation that has occurred through working with
Yes. So, for example, if it is an entrepreneur, a businesswoman, what most likely happens, the experience I had with my clients, is that they are so much into their masculine, that they're go, 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 and they're
you?
really high achievers. They're brilliant women in what they do. However, when it comes to relationships and intimacy, there is not that connection or that safety feeling. And sometimes it's because there's some trauma, and because of that, we actually become a little bit workaholic to numb the emotions. So we know that we need our validation, we need to feel our worth, and we just put it all in our work. We become brilliant business owners, but the inside starts really suffering. So we start getting depleted, close to burnout, and we just need to understand there are things that we might need to become aware of, start healing that aspect, and in that way, start connecting more with the feminine aspect that is not about achievements in the outside world, but it is truly about connecting with that divine feminine force within us so that we can replenish ourselves, be present in the moment, present in our bodies instead to be always in our minds, and
Mhm.
start savoring each day. And from there, we actually become more magnetic, even for business. And that's something that we
Sure.
sometimes don't realize. We just work, 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 and we are exhausted. So that's one of the aspects that I see very much happening.
And so what's kind of the process you take them through? I mean, what does that look like?
Yeah, so normally we go through different hidden traps, and this one that I shared is one of 5 hidden traps. So we go deep into healing and understanding what is happening, what has created that trap for us, and how we can transform it. So that's part of the process. Another trap is our connection with our bodies. We have so many standards as to how we should look, what is beauty, what is not beauty. So
Mm,
that creates also, like I have women that, for example, they are over 40 and they don't feel as comfortable with their partners in sexuality. So they start withdrawing and not wanting to have those relationships. So that, of course, is essential to the bond of the couple. They really need to keep that going. So through the course of our work together, they start rediscovering their beauty, that we don't need to look like 20 years old, but
right.
that there are other things that are amazing, and how we can adapt to the changes that our bodies are overgoing, and truly also heal, how we can heal. So aspects like incontinence, right? So laughing and you pee a little, and it's like,
Right.
oh my goodness. So all these things are embarrassing. So how we can heal that? So we do processes, and at the end of the course, women are completely transformed, feeling good with their bodies, healing that incontinence, and being able to enjoy the pleasure that is sexuality once again.
Wow. Now, tantric. Have you studied tantra a little bit, or do you incorporate breathing exercises into your training with your students?
Tantra, Tantra is not one of the things that I offer. I
Hmm.
mean, I add a little bit, but it's not the foundation. We work a lot more with redefining sexuality, healing the wounds that we might have, moving
Hmm.
from the traps into the gift of each of the aspects that we work with. So it's a lot of a healing process. But in this process, a woman can truly go from having difficulty having orgasm to being multi-orgasmic. So by healing deep trauma, by healing and redefining misconceptions about sexuality, by having a community of women that you can talk with about things that you don't talk to your best friend or you don't talk to your psychologist or to your partner, having that safe space, whereas women, we relate to each other and we realize I'm not alone. Like this is something that I've been suffering in silence, but every single woman in this room can relate to it. So just having that support, it can be completely transformative.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's such an important part of life, and it's also one of the most intimidating parts too. I mean, you're really vulnerable, you're exposed, and it's just this interesting flux. And one of the things that we look at is even with sexuality, when there's orgasms, your cortisol levels just diminish and immensely. So a lot of us are running on just these high cortisol, masculine type energy.
Mm.
And so that's one of the great ways that you can release cortisol. The other way is when you cry. When you cry, you look in your tears, and there's stress hormones that are just being released by the gallons in some some cases.
It's
So
amazing because every doctor would recommend sex as something good for us, right? But at the
the
same
best
time,
best hormone replacement you can get, just have sex.
at the same time, we have all these taboos. Like, for example, if I share about sexuality on Facebook, they're going to censor me because it's seen as porn. How are we going to transform and heal our sexuality if we don't see it as something natural and healthy?
And how do you differentiate that? Because I look at when I was growing up, the only porn you'd ever see, you'd have to go and like dig up some old magazine and you find it on the side of the road, right? And then you'd be like, oh, and then hurry and leave it and run away. Now our kids have phones, and so we have apps that watch, what my kids are looking at and censor everything. But when they do get exposed to it, it's not the way it used to be, and so it's just readily available. It's almost it's frightening. And that differentiation of how you see like true sexuality, true love versus porn, how do you differentiate that?
Yeah, I mean, it's so important to more than ever have available resources and education for proper sexuality so that our youngest generations have the opportunity to look at this as a way of bonding with a partner.
Mm,
Sexuality is the culmination of our relationship. Like we can, of course, it can be used for self pleasure or any other thing, but it has that potential of bonding with a partner in a way that no other thing, practice, relationship can bring to us. So just seeing that potential for that spiritual, physical, emotional connection with a partner that is essential in bonding in relationships, I feel that that's the key. In porn, obviously, there is nothing like that. There is
yeah,
no
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 connection.
no heart to heart, no spirit to spirit, no transcendent bonding or anything like that.
Right. And
So
yeah, and that's the hard thing. I'm like, I want to make sure that I love the work you're doing, because we all need that. We need the reminder that there's so much power in it and so much love and beauty. And it's like one of the most magical experiences you can have as a human being. I mean, arguably the most incredible experiences that you can ever have. And so, yeah, we've got to get rid of, like, it'd be nice if we could just flush all that stuff down the toilet and just show, like, just have some love.
right. And I in general, I'm not gonna judge necessarily porn or anything, but making more available these things. Like I wish that um, you know, press releases, Facebook ads, anything like that would be more open to share education about sexuality
Yeah,
instead to censor it. Because
sure.
how are we going to reach people? Like there is people that needs that healing. They're suffering on a daily basis because of this trauma, this fear, this lack of understanding of their bodies. They're suffering day after day. And there are tools available. So why we are suppressing that?
Right. And do you find that there's a certain time in life where people actually can awaken their inner sexuality, or do you most of your clients, are they in their 40s, their 60s, and their 20s? What do you find?
Yes. So normally around the 35 to 45 is like a time that they're like, okay, I had enough. Like I cannot continue living this way. But then I have some that come in their 20s. Like they're like, okay, I know there is better than this. I'm going to learn from the beginning how this should be and feel. And then I have some that are after menopause, close to their 60s, and they're having problems with the body not functioning the same time, so they come so that they can reconnect with how to heal their bodies and heal their relationship with their sexuality. So is wide the range of the age, but I would say 35 to 45 is a time of, I had enough. I really know I need to do this now. I'm not going to wait any longer, especially people that has been married, sexuality is non-existent, and they really want to reconnect with their partners. Maybe they have children already, they're grown up already, or their businesses are more established, so now they have that opportunity to go within and enjoy the pleasures of life.
Well, and I think a lot of couples forget that. They get so caught up in the routine and the work. And I know myself, my wife and I have to pause. So every Wednesday night, that's our date night. And like there's nothing that gets in the way of that. And it's magical. I have to have it on the calendar. I'm a very masculine human being. So if I don't schedule it out and have like, okay, this is what I'm doing now, it doesn't always happen. And so I think it's challenging being in a relationship I've been with my wife for, let's see, 11 years now. And it's just been awesome. But man, the times where our relationship is absolutely like the best and I'm feel lit up is when we are more sexually active. And and not just like sex for sex sakes, but the heartfelt, like you talk about. And it's an incredible transition.
It's so important, and something that, once you have your partner and you want to go deeper, it creates something that you cannot experience with anybody else. And it's so especially goes deeper and deeper. So it's super important. And, you say about you being masculine. I think our society is masculine in general. So I feel
Sure.
that it can always help putting, putting it on the calendar.
Yeah.
So even for women, for anybody, sometimes I recommend to just schedule your dating time, your sex time, and at that time that it comes, in the calendar, even if you're not feeling like it, create the space for intimacy. It can mean just looking at each other's eyes, holding hands, but just create the space. And that allows for it to go into actual sex.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Or you just give each other a massage. I mean, no pressure on it. I mean, there's so many cool things. And one of we work on a lot of sexual wellness with patients. A lot of men, they get, I'll talk on the masculine side of things, and just represent the fellas here. Hey guys. So yeah, a lot of times if I have men who come in and they have erectile dysfunction, or they feel like they just can't maintain. They have challenges there, and so we work a lot on the physical organ system. There's two things that we work on. One is we do P shots, so we'll actually do PRP and stem cells into the penis, and that helps bring new life and better vascularity, and then we help work on inflammation and circulation, because a lot of men out there, what they don't realize is when your heart is open and connected to someone else, to that, your partner, your spouse, whatever your love, that opens up oxytocin, and oxytocin dumps nitric oxide into your vascular system. And we have heart disease is the #1 killer in our country. And so one of the things that men need is we need to start opening our hearts, because there's physiological benefits that are lacking when we don't have our heart open. A man's heart opens up, the oxytocin kicks in, you feel more connected, you feel more love, you get nitric oxide. I mean, the benefits just go on and on and on. You get better erections, you have better sex. I mean, it's incredible. We're working on the circulatory system for men. So it's an interesting process. Do you work with men? You work primarily with women, but do you have any tips you could give men on just opening up their heart?
Yeah, well, first of all, what you're sharing about oxytocin is so important, especially now with the situation with COVID. It's
Mhm.
not as severe all around the world. Like in Arizona, it's not severe, the disconnection for what I experienced. We were in this
Arizona's a
event
different
together
place.
and everybody was like, yeah, hugging and everything. But then here in Los Angeles, we have right now like a stay home order. You don't see anybody, you don't hug anybody. So it's like we really suffer. Like you really need to find that oxytocin somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
so so it's so important now. But yes. So yeah, I work mostly with women and then sometimes with couples. So I
Hmm.
don't have a lot of like processes of things for men. But what I do is I help women understanding men a little better, because there is a lot of emphasis in how we women suffer, which we do.
Hmm.
But sometimes we don't realize how men suffer too, and how they have so much pressure on them. So that's what I do normally. I help women support their men better.
Oh, got it.
So yeah, so that's what I do normally. But I don't necessarily work with men so much. I wholeheartedly agree with what you said about opening their hearts, because sometimes there is a little bit more of how it was the tradition before, that men should not open their hearts as much. But now we go more into more of a feminine aspect, that is okay for men to be more open and open-hearted. And even there is the idea of gender fluidity. So now things have changed a lot, but still there is sometimes a lot of stigma as to how men should be in a relationship, and just as a man in order to be masculine. So that's something that certainly I would love for it to be redefined, so that they don't feel that amount of pressure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a really important piece, and so one of the things I look at too is the physiology, obviously, and with women we work more on the central nervous system. So, are you familiar with PT 140 41? Does that sound familiar to you?
No,
Um,
no, I'm excited to learn.
it's kind of interesting. Well, there's two things. So with females, typically we'll do hormonal balancing and we'll use peptides to help maximize that. And there's different processes we take them through to get rid of any blockages in hormonal production. But PT 140 41 is a peptide that you can use as a nasal spray, and it activates the central nervous system, and it's actually FDA approved for hypoarousal disorder in females. So one of the
Mm,
things we find is that, yeah, they can be open and loving and caring, but there's still just not the blood flow there. There's just no arousal, because females get an erection just like men do. Obviously it's different organ structure, but
mhm.
it's the same mechanism. And so PT 141 works on that central nervous system. So for some of your patients or your clients who can't quite get to that stage physiologically, that's a really good peptide that we found. One of the about 20% of people have a little bit of nausea. So you spray it, works right on the central nervous system. There can be a little nausea that usually goes away within 10 minutes. So don't worry, just hang in there. And then, and men can use this too, but it creates a very nice experience from a physiological perspective by using that PT 141.
Oh, I will look into it. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, for my clients, we work more on healing the breaks that prevent us to fully embrace and surrender to pleasure and sexuality, and then also going from our mind into our bodies. So we do a lot of sensory exercises and dancing and singing, and just really free
Whoa.
our souls. Because I come from Europe, And even here also in the US, maybe less, but especially in Europe, we're so serious. Like we are so intelligent, and like, we would not ever dance in the street or anything. But then I started dancing with people from Cuba and Brazil professionally. We were dancing, and you would see them at 8 in the morning, just like, hey, like dancing and singing, and you're like, oh, I'm sleeping already.
Right.
So to get our spirit alive and our bodies alive through that fiery energy, that passion. Like, I mean, if we think of Cuban people, Brazilian people in general, there is a lot more of that sexual energy that really exudes because they're in their body so present. So we bring a lot of that. I learned from them a lot to be more in my body and just express freely, and instead to feel so I don't know, constricted. So bringing some of that and feel that freedom, that instead to be in our minds, we are a free spirit, that helps so much to do it on a regular basis. Sometimes we think, oh, but that's just for entertainment, and it is not. I mean, it has been studies about the effects of dancing, drumming, listening to music, how that really affects our how we feel emotionally, but also how our mental abilities continue extending well instead to get Alzheimer's or other things. So it's super important to reconnect with that, just feeling free and express ourselves and tap into the emotion that is liberated through these exercises.
So maybe you could can you share a couple exercises with us? I mean, maybe
uh,
we can get everyone dancing. So you guys, let's get you guys dancing. You guys have no idea that Victoria has. I saw her get a whole room of almost 100 of us just dancing. I mean, how do you free that up? Because I get what you're saying. I remember when I was in Puerto Rico about 15 years ago, and I'm like, these guys are just like stoked. Like everyone's like dancing and they're like happy, they're laughing. Yeah, it was
yes.
very energizing.
So one of the things is music, right? For anything dancing related, music is going to be an incredible aspect. And the different kinds of music are going to be able to free certain things. So you mentioned about how when we cry, we release certain things and stress. So
Yeah.
this is the same. If you are in a place where you didn't complete the cycle of an emotion and you are like holding it there, and suddenly you put this song and you just allow yourself to move through it and just express with your body openly. So things like that I do. So I would have women, I will play a music that is going to trigger a certain emotion that might be stuck, and we are able to release it. But the same happens with other aspects. For example, as women, we might want to behave and be, like not too aggressive and things like that. But we also have the wild inside. So I would put a music that brings their Kali. Kali is like really ferocious energy from the goddess Kali. So now I
Okay.
allow them to embody that archetype and express it through dance. So it's safe. Nobody gets hurt with that fiery energy, but they are able to express all the fire that they have inside. And then we go into different musics that allow different expression of our emotions. And of course, sensual music. Like music can help us really connect with us feeling sexy and just connecting with our sexuality and our sexuality even. So that's what we do, and especially when we do it as a circle and feeling just the energy of all of us feeling free doing it, it just can be incredible. Another
Wow.
thing is with my drum, which I have here, and I
Oh
wish I
yay.
could
Oh, you
I
got to
wish
play
I
some
could share
drums
more
for
of
us.
this because sound is not very good. Like I guided some processes with music online and it's not as good. But with the drum also helps us very much connecting with the heart energy
Hmm.
and connecting with each other. So it creates a kind of bonding in the group that, I just all of us being in the same rhythm, in the same, maybe singing the same song, it can really empower us. So that's part of the work that I do.
Wow. I think that's great. And you don't want to play any drums for us, Victoria?
I can, yeah, sure. Um, I cannot promise it's going to sound
If we can get
well.
everyone like just moving their bodies a little bit. It's early in the morning, and let's be Cuban or Latin.
Okay, so what do you want me to do? I can drum and a little bit guide a process, or I can drum and sing a song together. What do you
Yeah,
want?
yeah, do that. I love that. Yeah,
A
let's do
song?
the song.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
What do you guys
okay.
think? You guys want a song? Yeah, I think everyone wants a song. So
All right.
awesome.
All right, so let me know how it sounds.
Okay.
How it
It's
sounds.
quiet. There you go.
Okay,
Got it. Yep.
okay. So the lyrics are going to be, Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I feel your heartbeat. Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I feel your heartbeat. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey yo. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey yo. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, ho. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey yo. So that's the lyrics, and I'm going to
Wow.
explain about the song. So in this song, we have an opportunity to reconnect with our primal aspect and also connect with the earth, our mother earth. And sometimes, even as healers, we connect more with the ethereal realm, but we are not grounded. And when we are grounded, we are able to bring some of that energy from Mother Earth and heal our physical bodies. Remember that we are part of nature. So we see the animals, they don't have any problem being free and having sex. Of course, it's a different perspective, but if we can reconnect with that wildness within us, and just as you are singing the song and saying, Mother, I feel you under my feet, like truly feel that energy from the primal earth coming to you, nourishing your body, nurturing you, and connect with that aspect of us that is so powerful. Okay.
Wow. Gorgeous.
any
Yeah. Okay.
any
I love that.
questions? Any questions
Any,
before?
yeah. You guys ask any questions you want at this stage, but that's really cool. So, Mother, I feel you under my feet.
Mother, I feel your heartbeat. So it's two
Your
parts.
heartbeat. Okay.
So it's two parts. Yeah. So you wanna
Mother, I feel
go
you
for a
under my
round?
feet. Let's do another round.
All right. So I now with the drum because I was drumming. Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I feel your heartbeat. Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I feel your heartbeat. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey yo. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey yo. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, ho. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey yo. Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I feel your heartbeat. Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I feel your heartbeat. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey yo. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey yo. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, ho. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey yo.
Well done, Victoria. That was awesome.
Oh, thank you. So when we
You
do
got
this, we actually have a dance that goes with it that connects the tribe. So we are
okay.
all doing it in a circle and just hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya. We go around the circle. It's so fun,
That'd
and
be
it
fun to
brings the
see.
yeah, it brings the group together, and it's so powerful.
Oh, that was great. Oh, thanks for that, and hopefully everyone enjoyed that. I think I heard some people singing in the background too, so there's a lot of voices. So yeah,
Awesome.
um, And so with that, I mean, it's such a cool, energizing process, especially to be able to express yourself. And I think that's the first time we've had someone full on sing on the show. So congratulations. That
Thank you.
is that was impressive. Yeah, very fun. I'm trying to get Anne on the show. She's on the back. She's got a beautiful voice too. We need to get you and her
Oh,
together, just singing, because what a magical thing. I mean, music is that universal language that connects us all. And so I think there's some real wisdom in bringing music into your healing art. That's just gorgeous. And so what are some of the other ways that people can tap into this like divine sexuality, or tap into that part of their soul that might be buried away?
yes. So something that I recommend, because we need to be practical. Like I can tell you a process that you have to do for 30 minutes every day. And who is going to be consistent? Sometimes not everybody. So sometimes I like to give people just processes that they can do easily. So one of the things is that we have the idea of the Pomodoro technique, which we work for about
Right.
50 minutes and then we take 10 minutes break. So it's similar to that, but is the 50 minutes working and then putting the alarm so that then you do a moment to reconnect with your body, your sensuality, your sexuality, whatever you prefer. So
Mm,
as you are on your desk, as I am here right now, perhaps having essential oils. So having a moment to connect with your
mm,
senses instead to be just looking at the screen, having some essential oils, and it takes just 1 minute. Reconnect with your senses. Remember that you're a sensory being, just connecting. And even you can do some more sensual processes from
mm.
the meridians, just going through the arm to the heart, the other arm to the heart, legs to the heart. Just do something to reconnect with your senses so that it's not
Love it.
always in the mind. So that's a super easy thing to do that,
What
you know,
what
every
what essential oil are you using?
lavender. I love lavender. Um,
Nice.
it's my favorite, but
I love
also for
lavender
women.
too.
For women to reconnect with the divine feminine, you can use rose or geranium. So those two are really, really powerful for the divine feminine. So yeah, that's it.
Nice. We've got a couple of comments coming in, if you don't mind. So Anne said, "Great job, Victoria."
Oh.
Sh- yeah, loved it. Cheryl wishes I would have sang too. No, you don't, Cheryl. Hey. There you go, Cheryl. Oh, that was good. But Cheryl said that was moving. And then, hey, you guys, Diane said, do you have women you work with who can't open up and their own sexuality due to rape or some sort of violence in their life? Because that's a great question, Dan, because there's so many. I mean, sexual assault is so rampant in our society. I think every society. It's. I mean, that can be devastating for anyone's sexuality, male or female.
Yeah, so that's one of the five hidden traps indeed. Many of us women have suffered from abuse, and you know, sometimes it has been full on rape, sometimes it might have been just to be touched inappropriately, but this absolutely leaves a mark and a wound in our bodies, in our souls. So it's essential, and this was part of why I had to start doing this work. So it is one of the five processes that we go through to make sure that we release that pain. So we have specific transmissions and meditations that we do to restore our bodies, restore our connection with sexuality, because sexuality is something that can bond us. So once it has been betrayed, it's like the very thing that could help us connecting with somebody. Now it separates us. So it's so painful. And because of that, we focus on that and we have many exercises that are meant to address that and resolve it and heal it. So healing is a huge part, and that's why I don't recommend sometimes to go into okay, let's learn sex postures to heal sex because it doesn't work. So I have had people, women coming to me that had tried to move forward in sexuality and they got more wounded because they didn't address what happened, the sexual trauma that happened in the past. So we start there. We start healing any trauma that was in the past so that we can reconnect with just having the pleasure of receiving that sensuality and sexuality.
Got it. Okay. So there are things you do to work with women like that. And what have you seen? You said there's 5 traps. One of those is abuse. What are the other 4
Yes,
traps?
they actually can download my book if they want. It's free, and it talks about the 5 hidden traps and solutions for each of the traps. So we have
Yeah.
the first one, that is that depletion, that we disconnect from our feminine self for many
Yeah.
reasons. For many reasons, because we want to be more competent in our work, because our society is just masculine in general, all of that. So that's the depletion trap. Then we have the guilt trap.
Mm,
So sexual guilt is a huge thing also. A lot of women, I know, for in my case, for example, it was growing up in a very conservative regime. So sex was strictly for procreation,
mm,
and having sex for pleasure was something that was not accessible. It was a bad thing and it was a sin. So if we have that feeling, how are we going to connect with a partner? So that's another trap.
okay.
Another one is the connection with our beauty in our bodies. When we feel that we have to have a certain stereotype, so
Mm,
that I know women that they don't want to get naked in front of their partners. They're embarrassed. They don't feel good. They just don't connect with their bodies. Instead, to understand that we have so much beauty, and that the standard is not necessarily what we're looking for, but there are flavors of beauty and how we can look. So that's another one. I think I said 3 so far. Another one is to have other women that can relate, to have a sisterhood
mm,
that can support you. So there is a lot of isolation. These themes about sexuality are taboo. Like, how often we talk about our sexual trauma with people. Like, normally we don't say all of these things. So being able to have that support, that's another one. And then finally, the one of healing trauma, super important. Healing sexual trauma is going to be essential, because otherwise, just a little touch can remind you. Like, we have this visceral remembrance of what happened, and it's not intellectual. Like, intellectually, maybe we move forward and it's okay, we made peace with it, but in our bodies we still feel it every time that we are touched. So we need to heal that at a visceral level. So
and
those are the 5.
I love that. And that's in your book, and it's in a matter of seconds. It is a best-selling book. So, and they can download that for free.
Well, that's one book. As you can see, I have 2 books. So
Oh,
that
excuse me.
that's in a matter of seconds,
Yes,
which
there's
is,
that's the one I have. Yes.
it has the keys to freedom. It's an autobiography, but it also has the keys to freedom. And then we have this other one that is the 5 secrets for becoming an ecstatic woman. So once we release those 5 traps, we are able to connect with what I call the ecstatic experience.
Love
And
it.
that can be downloaded in victoriavives.com/divine. So this is victoriavives.com/divine.
Beautiful. Okay, well, everybody get that. I think it would be really, I mean, the ecstatic woman. What does that mean? Ecstatic means like, oh, I'm
Yes.
just lit up. I'm so stoked about life, and you're just
Yes. I love that. So, you know, um, ecstasy is like the highest level of experience that we have in a positive regard. So, if you are familiar with the emotional scale that Abraham Hicks shares about,
yep.
the lowest is like, when you're sad and, depressed. But when we go up in the scale, we go to love and happiness. But for me, even beyond that is the ecstatic experience. When I had my Kundalini awakening, I was in that ecstatic experience. And it reminded me of what it is said that saints experience. They suddenly are one with life, with everything else. And it's like this incredible feeling inside that is so beyond what we can comprehend. So that's the ecstatic experience. And we can achieve this by moving beyond all these blockages that we have. And sexuality is one of the ways to really connect with it. So for example, um, when we are working, we are always working from a place of, I mean, not always, but sometimes from a place of frustration, stress. But what if we just allow the ecstatic experience, this feeling of just feeling so good in your body, breathing and feeling life running through your veins, feeling your sensual experience 100%. And then that's your life, underlying everything that you do. And then from there, you receive all the inspiration for anything that you need to do. If it is in business, you know the next move because the mind that, when we say the mind that created that problem cannot resolve it, sometimes it's because we are like so frustrated and closed up that if we open to just feeling that ecstatic experience, being able to just be ecstatic all throughout the day, or having these breaks, as I was mentioning, every 50 minutes, just take a moment to just breathe and feel the grandiousness of just being alive, having the senses that allow us to be present in the moment, enjoying and savoring life, smelling the flowers, just being in that place. And what happens is that sometimes those blockages come. So the depletion, the shame, the feeling isolated, all these things start coming, and the current of life doesn't flow, so it starts not being so ecstatic. So when we remove those breaks, we are able to just connect, just start connecting with that regularly.
I love that. And I think everyone could just go back to singing, Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I feel your heartbeat. Hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey. Yeah. Yeah, that brings you right back there to ecstaticness. Yeah,
Yes.
that's gorgeous. Well, this has been so fun, and you bring such an immense amount of wisdom and knowledge, but you also talk about a subject that's super taboo and uncomfortable for a lot of us to talk about. I grew up in a very conservative household too. I noticed in your book you grew up Catholic, and so sometimes that can be there's just these religious pressures there. But just a couple final questions. One is, have you gotten your German mother and your family to do these rituals with you, or to explore this
Ah,
of their
you
life?
have.
Because I've been to Germany a few times, and it's very like I can't even get a smile out of people.
Yeah, so they were born in Spain, but
Oh,
so the
okay.
first generation would be my grandmother being born in Spain, but very very German. They're very German. And they she's super super Catholic. I mean, she passed, but for me she's alive still with me. So she was very very conservative, but I actually got everybody in my home to learn Reiki with me. and,
Nice.
and practicing Reiki. In the beginning, they thought, "Oh my goodness," because when I had my awakening, it was like she got crazy. Like, like I was
Victoria
seeing
off the
things
deep
and
end. Yeah.
everything. So they were like, "She's crazy," but then they learned Reiki from me. So that was nice. I didn't get them into sexuality yet.
Okay. Well, just wanted to throw that out there. And my kids, we love Spain. How have you, in Spain though, everyone wakes up at noon and goes to bed at like 2 in the morning. Like, I mean, the time was crazy. I was like, we can't get in, we can't eat dinner until 10:30, and so it just was the weirdest thing I'd ever seen. Have you like been able to like gotten into the LA lifestyle, or are you still on the Spain time zone?
No, no, I'm pretty, in Spain, I was a little frustrated because I wanted to accomplish so many things. And, people there is like siesta. So I enjoyed so much coming here and seeing that everybody wants to do things
Yeah.
until it became stressful. And that's one of the reasons also why I got into Divine Sexuality, because here is a little extreme. So I would say a combination between Spain and here, would be great. So not as much siesta as in Spain, but not as much work and stress as here in the US.
Beautiful. Love it. Well, this has been so fun, Victoria. Can you share with people how they can get in touch with you one more time? And then it's been my honor to have you on the show. Thanks so much.
Oh, it has been so fun, Regan. This is so precious. I love your show. I was checking it out and it has amazing information. So, okay. So, victoriavives.com is the best place to find everything else. So, it's VICTORIA VIVES.com. And then from there, you can go everywhere else. And if you want the ebook, to download the ebook, then just put slash divine.
Beautiful. Awesome. Thanks so much, Victoria. And we'll see everybody next week. Same time, same place. Love you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Victoria,
Yes.
do you have a podcast already?
Yes.
You do?
Yes. I have the
Oh,
Divine
okay.
Sexuality podcast. Why?
Oh, have you been doing it very long?
No, not very long.
Do you have somebody that does it for you?
What do you mean does it for me? Like editing and all of that?
Yeah, so we do all that stuff on our end. That's something we do. We're a network, and we have people that just record their podcast. They send it to us with the edits. We edit. We do all the back end, the publishing, all the technical stuff on our end. We do all that stuff on our end, and then we give you extra exposure by playing it on the radio as well.
Oh, that might be interesting. The technical part I'm really good at, but
Okay.
exposure is always very, very nice. So
Okay.
how?
Well, we do have this, like, this is what Reagan does. Reagan does the show, and